So the internet's been ablaze, you know, after your controversial opinions on the growth of the NBA. Now you said, and I quote, 80s cannot compete with 90s, 2000s, and now. It is a pointless argument. Bill Lambier, I don't know why he caught the slander, but I do get it because it was February. Bill Lambier cannot play basketball today. His defense does not work today. So a lot of people got in their feelings, took it personal. I don't think none more than Chris Broussard and Rob Parker, two gentlemen I respect, hosted the Odd Couple pod on Fox Sports. And they were in their feelings. Did you hear what they said, Gil?
Yeah, I heard it.
Oh, you did? Mm-hmm. You heard all of it?
Yeah, I got it translated for me.
Some transcriptions and all that good stuff?
Translated for me a little bit.
So what's your response to them saying that you don't understand basketball? Understand the game, I believe is what they said.
You know what's so funny? That's the same complaint we have about them, that they don't understand the game because they've never played it. Well, my knowledge for the game, I was actually being nice, right, by calling them drunks. I was being nice, but if we want to see my knowledge of the game, when it merged in, 76, the NBA had a really big problem with the booger sugar from the NBA, right? I was trying to spare, but you know, since we want to talk about it, 70s, 80s basketball, the league was having a really bad image problem with the Tony Montana. That's what inspired the movie Scarface, because all the NBA players are just coked out. Like, I don't even know why we even playing this game. The whole 70s and 80s NBA league was just on
drugs.
They were just on drugs. Like, it was
performing though. I would say they were performing.
They should have. They was on that hard rock candy.
That cocaine
up and down. Like, I don't understand what we're talking about here. Because whenever they make an argument or try to make a point, they use the same 6 players. The same 6 players to make arguments. Okay, we're gonna take those 6, we're gonna move them. How about the other fucking 450 players that played in the 80s? You know the Knicks teams where they were throwing games for that drug? The Phillies teams where they were throwing games for the drug? That's the type of league that it was. They were literally throwing games for drug habits. Wow. And you're telling me that's the era that's supposed to be this golden shit? It's only golden because it was the merge. Then you had Magic and Bird being the face of the league at that point in time. And race wars going on. You know, you had every black person, Spanish person on the West Coast rooting for Magic Johnson and the Lakers, because there was only fucking 2 TV channels. Either you're gonna watch the Lakers or you're gonna watch Boston. And then you had everybody over in Boston rooting for the legends.
So what do you say, because we're gonna get into it a little bit. Normally we don't like to feed the trolls, but you know, we were touched by it. We talked about it yesterday during our pre-production meeting. So MJ and Hakeem are part of the 80s generation.
Cap.
Cap Rooney? Cap? What kind of cap?
Okay, see, this is, so I can break it down. It's Chris, right?
Chris Broussard.
Which one called me Willis?
That was Rob Parker, I believe.
He's stuck in the 80s, as you can see. We just call him Willis. Yeah, that fucking show was like mid-80s.
Different stroke,
but you said, no, but mid-80s, right? It's fucking stuck out there. So this is how it works. All right, so we'll use the 80s. So 1980 to 1984, those are your decade players, right? You don't want to be drafted in 85 or 84, 85 or 85, 86, right? Those were called tweeners. That's your tweener years. Anybody after that, you might as well look to the new decade, because the fact that 77, 78, 79 players, they go through your first 3 years. So basically in the NBA, it's going to take you about 3 years before you can actually get into your groove, right? So those 70, late 70 players, they're going to be priming soon as the decade starts in the 80s. So they have 10 years of work they're going to do. You know, anybody 85, which is going to be Jordan, Hakeem, and Barkley, you have to come out the gates running, man. So even the great Jordan, he still don't make the first team decade averaging 36 and all that, because he still only played 5 years. So he has 5 years worth of stats versus someone who played that decade for 10 years. So when you do the decade count, Jordan ranked 8th, Hakeem ranked 10th, Barkley didn't even rank in the top 10 because of that, because he started off the first 2 years. So those players after 84 going on, they're not going to be all decade players. So they will be priming in the following year. That's why Jordan is considered a 90s player.
Well, Jordan did win 4 of his 5 MVPs in the 90s. He did win one in the 80s.
He was a 90s player.
6 Finals MVPs came in the 90s.
90s player.
His only Defensive Player of the Year though came in
The only two people I've ever heard called him an 80s player was Chris and what was his name?
Rob Parker.
Call me Willis. Him. Yeah. Those are the only two people I've ever really heard him call Michael Jordan an 80s player.
So I guess the question, if you're saying the game has evolved, 80s can compete with 90s, 2000s, is 80s Jordan better than 90s Jordan?
Really? See, that's
I have to ask, Gillis.
But that's what you do.
Host.
Can the 80s Jordan beat the 90s Jordan? No. Can the 90s Jordan, can the 80s Hakeem beat the 90s Hakeem? No. So what they try to do is then say, Hakeem, Olajuwon was whooping on Shaquille O'Neal. You mean Hakeem, the MVP the year before, beating on a third-year Shaq? That's just like Jokic, Embiid, Greek the Freak beating on Wiseman. Obviously. Yeah. That is fucking obviously. It's the arguments you're making don't even make sense. Like, those guys are considered 90s players. Even in the 90s, Shaq was 92, and he's third team. He's third team all decade in the 90s. He's first team in the 2000s. You know what I mean? So it's basically your following year where you come in. But again, you move those 6 players out. Tell us about the rest of those cocaine ass heads. So, you know what I mean? Let's not forget let's not forget what the 80s basketball was really about. Yeah. Like, let's really not sugarcoat. I shouldn't have said sugar. I shouldn't have said sugar because it was all on that. You know what I mean?
Again, when you're talking about this knowledge, what are you basing this off of? Research, or did you actually?
Did
you play basketball?
I played.
Were you all NBA level player again?
I was 3-time all NBA.
You did that 3 times.
So, when we're sitting, gotta remember, I'm 92. You know what? I got my cell phone.
What, 01, 02?
I was 2001. So I'm at the prime. I'm at the beginning of the era. Now, so, if nobody knows this, I'm going to give you a list of the top 24 players in the 2000 decade.
Okay.
Right? Okay. The best 2000. Listen to these names. Let me know if you hear any name that came in 2004, 2005. LeBron, Kobe, Shaq, Dirk, Dwayne, Steve Nash, Allen Iverson, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Ray Allen, Chris Webber, Paul Pierce, Chauncey Billups, Yao Ming, Baron Davis, Carmelo, Tony Parker, Paul Gasol. That's my era. It's hard for, certain players. So the youngest players, LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. Yeah, they came in they came in 2002, 2003. You know what I mean? So it's hard for anybody after that to make the team because you're losing to the mid 90s players that's priming right now. So that's what the Chris is in. What's his name again?
Rob Parker.
Guys like people like him who just watch games, they don't really understand it. So people that are like players that are in their tweening years, you can just be stuck. You can have a great career and not make your decade team because you came in at the wrong era. So that's why Jordan is not considered an 80s player. He's considered a 90s player because when he came into the 90s, him, Barkley, and those are the same people he used the tweening player. He was better off just saying Magic Johnson and Bird. But that was it. That was the whole era, Magic Johnson and Bird. If you do the this is how you can tell. Shooting guards, right? Since we're not using Michael Jordan in the 80s as a shooting guard, but you can if you want to, we'll go with, you got Clyde, you got Gervin, over here, right? They're in their own those are superstars. Now, we got, was it Gus Johnson? Who was a guy on the Knicks who was high all the time?
Who was it, though?
Ray, something Ray.
Oh, Sugar Ray. Oh,
no, not Sugar Ray. It's Sugar. Anytime you say Sugar, I'm pretty sure they lighten up right now. Michael Ray Richardson. And then you had
Had to go overseas. Hooper.
I always want to say Theo Ratliff, but it's Theus, Reggie Theus.
No Reggie Theus slander on the show.
No Reggie Theus.
Hang time.
No.
Hang
Okay,
time,
so
find it.
those are the top 4 shooting guards. The last 3 couldn't shoot for shit, right? They couldn't shoot to fucking save their life. Now we put them in the 2000s, right? You got Kobe, Dwayne Wade, Allen Iverson. Who the fuck is those? Who are they guarding? And then we come off the bench, we got Ray Allen, T-Mac, and Vince. What are we talking about here? They should drug test. Someone need to drug test Chris, and what's his name again?
Rob Parker.
Rob Parker. They should be drug tested right now. I'm serious. This is embarrassing.
And the last thing I'll leave with, I think they try to say that you don't know basketball. And I'm looking at a man who dropped 60 points on Kobe Bryant, not knowing basketball. If you knew basketball, you might have dropped 120 on him, Gil.
I swear to God, listen.
180?
This is how great my basketball knowledge is. Bill Lambier, right? I said he wouldn't play in today's game. I really meant that shit, because he wouldn't. Like I'm sorry, but you know he was drafted with Magic, right? He was drafted in the same draft class. You wouldn't know him because back then they had fucking 7 drafts. They had 7 rounds. 170 to 250 people were being drafted in the 70s and the 80s. Now, I want you to do math and tell me which league, which time is easier to make the NBA. 90s moving forward, 54 spots. 80s, 170 to 250. It looks like they were just doing David Stern was like, hey, you want to play? You want to play? You want to play? You want to play? Come on. He was just fucking picking anyone who touched the basketball at any point in life was on inside the draft. There was a bum where I lived. And he was rambling and said, I got drafted. He was like, I got drafted in the 6th round back in 1985. Get the fuck out of here. No, he was right. He was right. He was just drafting anybody. So when I say Bill Lambier wouldn't make today's NBA, listen, he was drafted in the 3rd round. 3rd round. If he was 10 years older, he wouldn't have been in the league, okay? He wouldn't have been in this league, right? Like, we know what our 2nd round looks like, right? 30 players in the 2nd round, 20-some players in the 2nd round, 4 to 10 might play 2 years and above. The 80s had 5 more rounds of bullshit.
That's crazy.
Right?
I never knew that.
No, they had 5 more rounds. It's fucking 200 people coming in. As they should.
Anybody can make it.
Anybody, that's what I said, anybody can make it. But this is supposed to be the toughest era. It should be, like, you should have had 1 round and it's all super. You had 7 rounds of people. Like, post office guy, anyone who looked like a basketball player. So look, I want to do this. Bron, I'm sorry, my guy. I have to do it. Jordan is back the GOAT.
Not on the last day of Black History Month.
I'm sorry, Jordan is back to GOAT. I mean,
He's
come
back to
on.
GOAT.
Like, he's back to, listen, this is why. You got to be the GOAT if you ran the cocaine out of the 80s. Like, you literally ran the cocaine out these players. Like, you was running circles around them that in the 90s, they had to clean their shit up. That like he was a clinic by himself. So I have to give it to Michael Jordan. He's back the GOAT for what he did for the 80s. He was whooping their ass so bad in the 80s. Look, you remember the Last Dance?
I do remember.
When he said the teammates, they was all in there doing drugs.
Yeah,
y'all remember that, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Tekashi.
Yeah,
I guarantee if you interview any of those players, they won't even remember playing with MJ. That's how high they was.
They don't even remember the young star.
They was on that Antarctica.
What's up, everybody? As you know, Gil's Arena is presented by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest and best way to play fantasy sports. You can pick higher or lower on your favorite players' fantasy projections, and you have the opportunity to win up to 20 times your money in a single night. We're doing the 5 ways, the 4 ways, the 3 ways. You know, you can do them 2 ways too, but the Brewer bread is at the 5-way. Who you rolling with right now?
I just picked the 5-way.
That WNBA.
WNBA. All 5. Let's rock it.
Let's get this
Yes,
bread.
sir.
Now, Underdog is available in 30 states and Canada, except Ontario. Get your minds right. Get on with the Underdog Fantasy crew. And if you want to get down, use promo code GIL and Underdog will match your first deposit up to $100. You put 100 in, they give you 100 right off the top. You start with 200, really get them pick'ems going. Everybody out there, make your next move your best move. Download the Underdog Fantasy app, use promo code GIL, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. You can't beat that. We appreciate y'all rocking with us. Keep watching, keep supporting the movement.
I'll do it again. Use promo code GIL.
Sound like a good promo code to me.
Age is 0. Change the game. Put that respect on his name. Look, with the honor call for greatness, the chosen of few that carry the gift of genius, who do what they do, who possess finesse, are blessed with desire, it's true. I'ma say it loud, none other than who?